Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Ramadava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astottara Sutta Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we're continuing the reading of Srila Prabhupada's lilamrta by His Holiness Swarup Damodar, Volume 4, in every town and village. And we are reading from Chapter 2, London, A Dream Fulfilled. After breakfast, when the sun had warmed the air, Prabhupada opened his windows, sat down at his harmonium, and sang bhajans. As he sang with closed eyes, his head shaking, he played the harmonium, and Yamuna sat at the bottom of the stairs, crying tears of appreciation. Prabhupada had been singing for a while when he stopped and called for Yamuna. "Do you enjoy my kirtan?" he asked. "Yes," she nodded, "very much." "The prayers of Narottam Das Thakur," he said. "This sound is above the material platform. It is directly from the spiritual platform. And there is no need of understanding the language. It is just like a thunderburst. Everyone can hear the sound of thunder. There is no misunderstanding. Similarly, these songs are above the material platform, and they crack like thunder within your heart. Why don't you come here every day during my chanting? That would be wonderful. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. From now on we will record. And every morning after that, Prabhupada sang, and Purushottam and Yamuna would come to his room and record. So for those of you who regularly listen to Srila Prabhupada's classes and morning walks, but in reference to this point, especially his singing in kirtan or bhajan, playing the harmonium or mridanga and singing, can easily attest to the depth of devotion that emanates from Prabhupada when he's singing. On some external level, one may, a record artist in the music field may not sign Prabhupada up for recording and creating top 10 chart-topping singles or albums. But this sound vibration, as even Srila Prabhupada is commenting, these songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, when sung with devotion, it's above the material platform. In this regard, Srila Narottam Das Thakur himself says, Golokera Premadhan Harinam Sankirtan, that this holy name, these bhajans are coming from Goloka Vrindavan. They are not of this material realm. And coming from that platform, from that realm, carries with it a message, a potency that really connects with who we truly are. Therefore, when we hear someone like Srila Prabhupada singing, our soul is connecting with that sound vibration and it moves us. We don't know what it is, but it moves us. Therefore, one must appreciate very carefully and very sincerely and clearly that kirtan, genuine kirtan, and our genuine appreciation of kirtan doesn't depend on a whole expert array of musical arrangements, doesn't depend on sophistication in the whole setup and the tones and the inflections and the expertise of how you can sing and play. No. It depends on our first appreciation of where this holy name, where the sound vibration is coming from Goloka. And it also depends on our deep appreciation of the kirtan singer. And when that connection is made, then we can be moved to deeply connect with Krishna coming from his kirtan. This is very, very important to appreciate and understand. And here Prabhupada is saying something very interesting. He said, there is no need of understanding the language. This is very interesting. And he gives Prabhupada was a master of analogies. Of course, in the material world, analogies, anything material is faulty. But Prabhupada had a way of using analogies to deliver very powerful points that otherwise we can't understand spiritually. He uses the example of, anybody remember? Of thunder. When we hear thunder, we know there's possibility of rain. Right? We know the sound thunder instills with us an understanding. Everybody understands it. Everybody understands it automatically. Similarly, with the holy name of Krishna or the songs of the great Vaishnava Acharyas, when we hear them, we can understand. We just have to be open to it. It's only a stubborn person when he hears thunder, he thinks, it's not going to rain, But if we are truly open to the sound vibration coming from the pure source like Srila Prabhupada and the great Acharyas, we will open our hearts let it crack into our hearts, Prabhupada says. They crack like thunder within your heart. So we should learn these bhajans. I should express some concern that sometimes when devotees sing a little well-known bhajan even, most of the attendees don't know the words. And we should learn, especially these songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, whose language is very simple. Bengali language, very, very simple. And Srila Prabhupada said, in that simplicity, he conveys the deepest spiritual truths. The deepest spiritual truths. So we should endeavor once a week, twice a week, every day if possible, to learn a bhajan. To learn bhajans of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Actually, I remember reading that Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, the saintly spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was once approached by a devotee and he was asked, Babaji Maharaj, what will it cost to attain Krishna Prema? It's a good question, right? What will it cost to attain Krishna Prema? And Babaji Maharaj, Gaurakishore Das Babaji said, Krishna Prema, 10 paisa. That's all. How many of you have 10 paisa? 10 paisa is 10 Indian cents. Any of you have that? It's like 2.5 South African cents. You have that in your pocket, I'm sure, Shamit. You have it? You don't have, you have credit card at least, so you have more than that, right? I'm sure we all have 2.5 South African cents. Of course, that was over 100 years ago, so now maybe like 2 Rand 50 or something, right? Multiply it 100 times. We all at least have 2 Rand. You have 2 Rand 50 and you have 2 Rand 50. It's easy. So he's saying to get Krishna Prema costs 2 Rand 50. The devotee was puzzled. Like, 2 Rand 50? That means everybody can just get Krishna Prema. He says 2 Rand 50, but how? How is 2 Rand 50 equal to Krishna Prema? Krishna Prema means that lofty goal, that prayojan of developing love for Krishna. He says you go down to Navadvip, to the shop there, you take your 10 paisa and you buy 2 books. Prema Bhakti Chandrika and Prarthana. These are the 2 song books of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And you keep that, that's Krishna Prema. So, devotees, if you want to get Krishna Prema, 2 Rand 50. Or maybe it's, 30 Rand now at the book table. You know us at Hare Krishna temples. Anyway. Right? 30 Rands, that's all. You buy these books, the song books of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, and you read those songs. You simply read those songs and Krishna Prema will manifest in your heart in due course. But what do we have to do? We have to do it. We have to do it. Right? This is very important. What is your favorite bhajan? Yamuna asked. Quite a powerful question she's asking Prabhupada. Very intimate, very revealing question. What is your favorite bhajan? Yamuna asked. What's yours? Prabhupada returned. Lord Chaitanya's Shikshashtakam prayers. So, the 8 prayers of Lord Chaitanya, that's Yamuna Devi's favorite bhajan. And Prabhupada said, my favorite is Hari Hari Bhifale. It's also sung by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And he recited the gist of the prayer in English. O Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. Although I have taken this rare human birth, I have not worshipped Radha and Krishna, and so I have knowingly drunk poison. There is so much depth of meaning in Narottam Das Thakur's prayers. Prabhupada is saying. So at least we know this is Prabhupada's favorite bhajan. Now, devotees, many of you are initiated. If you hear that your Guru Maharaj's favorite food preparation is something, let's say you hear, Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's favorite preparation is, I don't know, something, palak paneer. Those who are cooks and interested, what will you do if you hear that his favorite preparation is palak paneer? You'll go and try to learn how to make it. You'll do it over and over and over again, so you'll know, yes, I can please Guru Maharaj with this. Right, Mataji? You'll learn. Now that you hear that our founder Acharya's favorite bhajan is Hari Hari Bipale, what will you do now? What will we do? We'll go and learn it. We'll sing it because we know this will please our Srila Prabhupada. So like that, that's the gist of our spiritual life actually. We learn what Krishna likes through studying Prabhupada's books. We learn what the Acharya likes. We learn what our Prabhupada likes. We learn what our Guru likes. And we learn, we study, and we put that into practice. This is the process of developing relationship with Krishna, isn't it? This is the process we learn. So we should learn by reading, by hearing from devotees who are experienced. But we must put that effort to hear and learn. Just simply standing and hoping it's going to enter you, you're going to take millions and millions of births. It will penetrate slowly just by being present, existing in ISKCON, but it'll take many, many births. But when you put the effort to connect with what Prabhupada likes, then, so much of mercy will come. Purushottam speaks. Once Prabhupada was sitting alone in his room. I walked by and I heard him singing a prayer I'd never heard before. And I went in. Of course, everyone knows he sings. He can sing very beautifully, very greatly inspired. But I'd never heard him sing as beautifully as he did that one time. I'd heard him sing many, many times in many temples, but I'd never heard him sing as beautifully as this. I felt very honored to hear it, very privileged. It was beautiful. When he was done, he just got up and said, "Let's go now." As if that part was done, as a matter of fact, and now we're going. Prabhupada also chanted one chapter of Bhagavad Gita daily for 18 days. This is the original Chad. You know, the Chad program, chapter a day. Prabhupada did that originally. This is in the late 60s. Anywhere Bhagavad Gita is chanted, he said, that place becomes a tirtha, a holy place. Purushottam reported to the devotees in the United States these activities of Prabhupada. Quote, He is singing prayers a lot, and much of it is being recorded. I must admit that the tapes of songs and prayers he is making now are the best ones I have ever heard. Wait until you hear them when we get back. As the Bhagavatam says, quote, Drink deep this nectar, O man of piety, and you shall be taken from this mortal frame. Now, devotees, I don't mean to offer any comparison amongst devotees now with what I'm going to say. But we have a tendency in general, in the modern context, to have musical favorites based on various sort of external criteria sometimes. Charisma, beautiful voice, knowing many, many tunes, different styles we have, right? But my suggestion to all of us listening here today and online is that if you ever want to have a sure bet that a kirtan singer is connecting with Goloka Premadana Harinam Sankirtan, there is no gamble when it comes to listening to Srila Prabhupada. What do you all feel? But how many of us take the time to listen to Prabhupada's kirtan and bhajans? How many of us do this when we measure it with how much we hear from other kirtanias? I'm not saying that we now need to measure the times and make sure Prabhupada is at least 1 minute more every day than anyone else. We are naturally inspired by who we inspired, but we must fill our tank up with the purest of chantings as regularly as possible. And in our experience, in our world, in our movement, who is the purest chanter? Srila Prabhupada, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. So it's important for us to recognize this and to hear his chanting as often as possible. Yes, that's not to say, right, let's banish all other kirtaniyas, No. We are saying when you develop an attachment for listening to Prabhupada's bhajans and kirtans, we can have more confidence that our appreciation of everyone else singing is not based on an external mundane appreciation. The foundation has to be Srila Prabhupada's. That's where the foundation is. Even in giving classes, one of my favorite speakers now, His Grace Amarendra Prabhu, such a young aged devotee. I think he's like 30 years old now. I remember him when he was a young boy coming to Juhu Temple in the 90s. And now he's blossomed into this amazing Kathakar. Just, I wonder sometimes, who is this person, Who is this personality? Where has he descended from? He speaks with such brilliance and charisma and expertise. And I heard him once say, please, I beg of you all, please understand that I am not here to entertain you. Because he could see many people listen to him for this amazing charismatic entertainment. But he himself, how is he nourished? By carefully listening to Prabhupada. Carefully listening to Prabhupada. And that's what I really appreciated. So if we do not want to be externally entertained by all the charisma that's out there in the world, even within the field, the space of bhakti, we should always regularly strengthen our foundation of listening to Prabhupada. When we listen to Prabhupada carefully and regularly, then we can have confidence that my listening to anyone else is not just entertainment based. Very, very important. This is something I felt very fortunate now when I look back in time, that this is what we grew up with when we joined. It was like such a Prabhupada-centered experience, isn't it? So Prabhupada-centered experience. The Prabhupada lilamrta that we tried to read on an Ekadashi was like a central book, an everyday book. When we first came to Krishna consciousness. And I feel very grateful that we had that. And we should try and have that today as well. Because without that, there's every risk that our experience and our development in Krishna consciousness could have a very weak foundation. Could be built on something material and external. But when we really focus on Prabhupada and his teaching, his bhajans, everything about him, what he likes, how he likes it, we can have confidence that we'll be very safe in Krishna consciousness. So now we go on to another, a similar, but another aspect of Prabhupada's likes. The women cooking for Prabhupada were serving him American desserts, apple pie, donuts, glazed cookies. It's Ekadashi, people, just remember that. Prabhupada would smile, but he would only nibble at his dessert. One afternoon he said, "These sweets are very nice, but no one has made me sandesh." None of the devotees knew how to make Bengali sweets. So Prabhupada took them into the kitchen and taught them to make sandesh, or as they say in Bengal, sondesh. Although they had watched carefully, their first attempts produced sandesh that was dry and grainy. But Prabhupada accepted it, preferring the sandesh which Krishna himself used to eat to the Western confections. Now, what do you think I'm going to say now? Right? Of course, there is no problem with serving Krishna cakes and pastries and all these amazing delicacies that we find in the West. If it's made with love and devotion, of course Krishna is going to love it, because he is tasting love and devotion. But when we realize that the devotee closest to Prabhupada, that pleased Prabhupada so much, more than anyone else in our own experience, meaning Srila Prabhupada, he liked Sandesh. What should we learn to do? We should learn to make Sandesh. We should learn to make Rasgulla, Malai Cham Cham, Rabri, Rasmalai, all these things. We should learn to make those things. Mishti Doi, all these things that we know Krishna liked and ate. So yes, can you see where devotion comes in? We cook whatever we cook and can cook with devotion. But when we, out of devotion, want to please Krishna more, Prabhupada more, by learning things that we know they ate and liked, isn't that also more devotion coming in? Being open to learning how to cook as Prabhupada cooked, that shows devotion. And not just being stubbornly resistant that I know how to cook. My grandmother taught me how to cook in Chatsworth Unit 6. I know how to cut the green beans and cook it until it's completely devoid of any life, because that's how we put it, and how to put the red thing and make it so red, and 5 chilies cooking for a family of 4. I know, that's showing devotion. Yeah, we can cook it with devotion, but is it really cooking for devotion for Krishna's tongue and Prabhupada's tongue, or for Radharanath's tongue? Once I remember His Holiness Parthasarthi Goswami, who used to often taste the different preparations, and he commented, she was such a wonderful cook for the deities, but one day she made it a little spicy, and Maharaj called her and said, "My dear so-and-so, you must understand that Krishna is a 7-year-old boy. You must cook for him like he's a 7-year-old boy." Not that you're going to, send a nuclear bomb on his tongue or something, We have to be conscious of these things. So yeah, we should consider just hearing from someone who is so close to Prabhupada, like Yamuna Devi and others. And in my estimation, it's very hard to find, my subjective opinion now, very hard to find someone who understood Prabhupada as closely as Yamuna Devi. She was so intimately related to Prabhupada, so intimately related, amazingly. So when she says that Prabhupada liked this and liked that and liked it in this way, if we simply imitate her in her cooking by studying her cookbook, we know we can be very confident that we will please Krishna by pleasing Prabhupada in that way. So it's our humble appeal that devotees should learn how Prabhupada cooked. Make it a point of learning from those who knew how Prabhupada cooked. And you know what? That opportunity is going to go very fast. As the generations of ISKCON go down in time, the Prabhupada disciples in this decade, let's be frank and realistic, in this very decade, 90% of Srila Prabhupada's disciples will go back to him. They would no longer be on the planet. And in another decade after that, all those that were trained by Prabhupada's disciples will also be back with Prabhupada. So who's going to train us then? So we better act quickly and learn from them. Put aside all that we have learned before. You'll know the story of the German music school? You'll know the story? Ever been to music school? The German music school. 2 students went to enroll in the German music school. When they went to the registration counter, the one person was asked, "Okay, so-and-so, do you know any music?" Yes, I know how to play this, I studied. "Okay, for you, it's $1,000 fee for the 6 months." Okay, very good, sat down. Then the next student went to register at the counter. "Do you know any music?" The registrar asked. No, I have no training." "Okay, for you, $500 for the 6 months. So the person who didn't know any music was charged less than the person who knew music. Why is that? The other person asks, but you're charging me 1,000 and you're charging that person 500. No. It's because you already know music. And it will take more effort to untrain you and then train you. So, we must come to Krishna for training, to the devotees for training, with this understanding that let me put everything aside, let me learn clearly how Prabhupada wanted. I know for myself, I had to unlearn so many things as well from my previous sort of spiritual affiliation. And I'm sure some of you would also testify for yourselves similarly. So we have to be open to simply learn what Prabhupada taught. Bhakti means to be open. To be open to being educated in Krishna consciousness. For devotees at Tittenhurst is the estate, the residence estate of John Lennon, where Prabhupada was temporarily staying. For the devotees at Tittenhurst, to have Prabhupada living among them was again to witness Krishna's pure devotee as he engaged constantly in ecstatic devotional service with his body, mind and words. They could see how Prabhupada was speaking and acting in Krishna consciousness at every moment, and his presence confirmed that the most exalted platform of pure devotional service was a reality. His disciples felt bliss and renewed determination just being with him. Now this is so important. We can study Shastra, the nectar of devotion. We can read and study and even write exams on the Ashtasattvika bhavs and the symptoms of a pure devotee. We can read it all. But when we have opportunity to witness it, like these devotees, they were so elated simply to see Prabhupada amongst them, to witness how every moment of his was engaged in Krishna's service. When you see it in action, the efforts we make in devotional service to advance become real, because we are seeing the ideal in action. We must be careful that our understanding of Krishna consciousness is not an idealistic exercise, but we must be able to look for examples of that ideal process, that ideal experience, that ideal taste being manifest in someone real. Prabhupada was that type of person. And it's not like 5,000 people who took initiation from Prabhupada are just blind, sentimental followers. No. When you see Prabhupada's disciples, for the most part of them, they're very independently thoughtful individuals. They're very strong-willed. You know, these Americans and European type people, they're very independent, strong, confident people. 5,000 of them are not just going to get swayed away by this little Indian man. No. But when they all, even we read about Purushottam just now, appreciating Prabhupada. Purushottam had a little challenge, well, a big challenge with Prabhupada's teachings about the moon landing, and he left. He actually ran into some difficulties. But he comes back and he gets interviewed, and what's his statements? He's appreciating Prabhupada's devotion after some years, right? This is probably about 10 or 15 years after he had left Prabhupada's association. So that shows that even a person who left Prabhupada is speaking so highly of Prabhupada. That must say something. So we have to ensure that we get enough experience of real devotees practicing, tasting Krishna consciousness. When, not just Prabhupada, when saintly Vaishnavas come, we should try to spend time with them, see them, learn from them, watch how every move of theirs is in the service of Krishna. And I must say, in Durban, South Africa, we're very fortunate. We have that opportunity to see great saintly souls walking amongst us. But we must take the trouble to be with them, hear from them, serve them. And in that way we'll see our Krishna consciousness is not just plain and bookwork. and traditional and obligatory, like sometimes the following of some religion is. You just plug yourself in there and you go with the motions, as dry as it may be. No, always look for these living examples. Living examples are very, very important. Prabhupada's hosts, John and Yoko, also had the valuable opportunity to be near Prabhupada, although they chose to keep apart. Remaining together in their own world, they mingled but rarely with the devotees. Like very, very infrequently would they come to be with Prabhupada and the devotees. They were sort of just in their own space, doing their own thing, their own experience, even though they were in the same estate as the purest devotee in modern times. Prabhupada's men continued to work under John's managers, and John was content to let the Swami and his entourage stay. So what had happened was, the devotees didn't really have a place to stay, and John Lennon suggested they all come and stay at his estate and do some work in refurbishing his estate. So they were working under John Lennon's managers. When the head gardener asked John how to treat the devotees, John said, "Let them please themselves." On hearing of certain activities in the main house, Prabhupada commented about the bad influence women sometimes have on men. But he kept out of John and Yoko's affairs. He had his own affairs in Krishna consciousness. So sometimes when we, out of circumstance or some necessity, unforeseen circumstance, we are forced to be in a situation that's not ideal, living with persons who are devoid of Krishna consciousness, who may be atheistic, just materialistic and so on. We may have to be in that situation, but we must be very guarded, very, very guarded, not to get influenced by their behavior. Because once you associate too much in these circumstances, naturally one becomes influenced. It is natural. And Lord Chaitanya very often was emphatic about this, especially to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Do not dress opulently, do not associate with common people, do not speak in their language. One has to be very careful. Yes, for the sake of sharing Krishna consciousness, we have to be in their company to give and influence people, but we must always come back. Always come back to our natural position. Not on the plea of being the world preacher, the great preacher, just stay out there and sacrifice it. Prabhupada didn't want us to sacrifice our Krishna consciousness for the sake of making someone a devotee. He wanted us to be Krishna conscious. Okay, we'll finish with these last two paragraphs. Having been whisked from the airport to Tittenhurst, Prabhupada had seen little of London, and one day he asked Shamsundar to take him on a tour of the city. Prabhupada had grown up in British Calcutta, hearing London praised as the seat of Britain's world empire. So when he saw how small many of London's historic landmarks were, he was particularly surprised. At Buckingham Palace, he remarked, "We have many houses in Calcutta bigger than this." The Thames, how do you say it? The Thames. The Thames. The Thames or the Thames. Thames. The Thames, celebrated in the writings of British authors he had studied in college, was a disappointment also. It's a canal, he said. It's only a canal. In my mind, I thought it was bigger than the Ganges. If you've seen the Thames, I don't know, maybe running through London, it's maybe less than 100 meters wide. I can't remember. It's like not much. It's really not much. If you look across that river, you could possibly recognize a person on the other side. You could possibly, it is possible. But the Ganges, to look across, from Hulor Ghat or from Prabhupada Ghat to the other side, you can't see the other bank. Yet the writings of the British authors that he had studied made it out to seem like. So this is propaganda and advertisement. But when it comes to talking about Krishna, there is no way you can exaggerate. there is no meaning. There is no word like exaggeration when it comes to Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is unlimited. His glories are unlimited. His devotees' glories are unlimited. So when we talk about the devotees, even these British authors will have a challenge to over-glorify them, because there's no such thing as over-glorifying of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. But the most interesting sight was the building at Seven Berry Place. I love how Satsvarupa Maharaj brings it down, that all these big buildings, Buckingham Palace, the Thames, the House of Commons, everything, and then the most interesting site was Seven Berry Place. Why was Seven Berry Place very important? City officials had recently granted the devotees permission to occupy the temple. That part of the battle was won. If you go to Seven Berry Place, physically, it's not much to look at. It's a small place, really, really tiny place. But the most interesting for Prabhupada was Seven Berry Place, because this was going to be the start of something really, really tremendous, really, really remarkable. Now, Shamsundar and his few helpers had to finish the remodeling. On seeing the temple's location near the British Museum and Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, Srila Prabhupada became even more anxious that Shamsundar fix an opening date as soon as possible. Okay, we'll just read this last conversation. It's quite nice. In September, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Satsvarup about his stay at Tittenhurst Park. Prabhupada writes, "Here there is a nice big hall exactly suitable for a temple. I have begun to give lectures here on specific days, but there are no outsiders coming." This is Prabhupada's thing. He was so outreach focused. He wanted to attract as many conditioned souls to hear Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada wanted to preach to the outsiders, and if they wouldn't come to him, he would go to them. His first outside meeting arranged by the devotees was at Camden Town Hall in the heart of London, and was well attended both by Britishers and by Indians. After Prabhupada's brief lecture, only about 15 minutes, a lively question and answer session began. So Prabhupada spoke for a very short time, impactful and short, and then opened up for the most important experience. Women, would you say Krishna is God or Krishna is love? That's a good question. Prabhupada answers, without love, how can Krishna be God? Without love, how can Krishna be God? Women, no, I asked you. No. Women, no, I asked you. Prabhupada, yes, that is the real position. Krishna means all attractive. Anything which is all attractive, you generally love. Prabhupada is so brilliant. Man, then the particle of the Supreme Being, man, is also all love. Meaning us, the living, the person. Prabhupada, yes, you are part and parcel of Krishna. You want to love somebody and Krishna wants to love you. This is loving exchange. But instead of loving Krishna, you are trying to love something else. That is your trouble. The love is there in you and Krishna, and when the love will be exchanged between you and Krishna, that will be your perfection of life. So brilliant, simple and brilliant. Man, thank you. Indian woman, would it matter if I worshipped any other? Would it matter whether I worship Krishna or Shiva or Christ or Buddha? Would it matter? Prabhupada, if you worship Shiva, you will get Shiva. If you worship Krishna, you will get Krishna. Why do you expect Krishna by worshipping Shiva? What is your idea? Indian woman, my idea is, would it matter? Prabhupada, don't you suppose if you purchase a ticket for India, you'll go to India? How can you go to America? Indian woman, this is not the point. Prabhupada, this is the point. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Yanti deva vratan devan pitran yanti pritra vrata. Indian women, but my point is, Prabhupada, your point you understand. Why don't you understand the description of Bhagavad Gita? If you worship demigods like Shiva and others, you will go there. If you worship Krishna, you'll go to Krishna. What is the difficulty to understand? Indian woman, do you think that Shiva is a demigod? Prabhupada, yes, why not? Indian woman, but Krishna says that it doesn't matter the way you worship. All means have the same goal, and you will reach the same goal. You can take different paths, but you will come to me eventually. Prabhupada, just try to understand. Suppose you have to go to the 42nd floor of a building, and you are going up one after another. So the goal is the 42nd story. But you cannot claim that after going a few steps, I have come to the goal, the 42nd story. The path is one, that's all right. But you have to reach the ultimate goal. You do not know what the ultimate goal is. You simply say all paths lead to this goal. But you do not know what is the ultimate goal. A young hippie stood up and shouted, "Hey, Swamiji!" People in the audience turned around and looked. The hippie said, "You said if we are not careful, in the next life we'll become a dog. But I want to tell you that I don't mind if I become a dog in my next life." "You have my blessing," said Srila Prabhupada. And the young man sat down. Srila Prabhupada ki. All right, are there any comments, questions, anyone? All right. Oh yes, Charachandi.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. I have a question. So many years ago when I joined, I don't know if I read the book or if it was an instruction from one of our spiritual masters that there's some dangers in associating with Srila Prabhupada's God brothers and followers. The gist I got, if I can remember, was that we're not like allowed to some extent. So there's been a lot of talk on Facebook, which I'm trying to avoid lately, because it's just a bit of a disturbance that there's no harm in actually hearing from Srila Prabhupada's God brothers and also associating with their disciples, befriending them like that. So is there any harm, can we benefit from such association?
So Charachandi Mataji is asking if you didn't hear that some time ago she had heard the guidance that one should not associate with the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada and their societies, their groups. In other words, associate outside of ISKCON and hear from them. But more recently, there seems to be some discussions and motivations and even advice that there is no harm that one should associate here and things like that. So she wants to know, is there any harm? Now whatever I say in response is going to be criticized either way. whichever answer is given, it gets criticized, it gets an autopsy will be done on it, and so that's true, that's fine. That is the nature of the modern world and the world of social media, that everything is sort of minutely looked at and dissected, right? My realization is my realization based on what I have learned from those persons that I have faith in, that I have surrendered to, and that's my path. I take guidance like that. That's how we learn from Parampara. That's what Prabhupada taught us to follow. So the guidance that I have received in my reading of Prabhupada's teachings is that Prabhupada was very concerned about his fledgling society. And he had taught us the process of Krishna consciousness, which he very specifically tailored for the world today, with his realizations, with his goals and expectations. And he protected this fledgling society with walls of protection. And that means to protect us from sub-religious principles, certain spiritual flavorings and activities that may not support pure devotional service. And even within the realm of some practices of pure devotional service that may not clearly and carefully support his tailored process that he had given us. Now, I'll say that again. Even within the realm of other forms of pure devotional service, there could be activities that may not have Prabhupada's tailored presentation as front and center. What I mean to say is that many of the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur are great pure devotees of Krishna on the levels of bhakti that I cannot even begin to comprehend. We should appreciate that. I mean, if Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was such a personality, of course, he must have inspired so many great souls in Krishna consciousness. Many pure devotees must have been touched by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, just as Srila Prabhupada was so amazingly touched. But there can be some differences in presentation, there can be some differences in emphasis from Prabhupada's presentation and emphasis. So for me, I would say, if one is mature to understand very carefully Prabhupada's presentation, his emphasis, his desires, his teachings, if one can really carefully understand it and can clearly see the differences and not be swayed by the differences, not to be influenced by the differences, then I would say there is little to no harm in accessing and hearing from these great souls. But for me, the qualification is what I said first. One must have had very nicely assimilated Prabhupada's teachings. And how long will that take us? How long will that take us? It will take us quite a while. Prabhupada's teachings, I like to always present this analogy from His Holiness Devamrita Swami, who's such a brilliant fanatic. He's fanatically attached to everything Prabhupada. I have this thing about him. I view him as a fanatic of Prabhupada. He once gave this analogy about Prabhupada's books, lectures and teachings, and everyone else's, including other ISKCON devotees, the acharyas, Prabhupada's godbrothers and so on. He said for us, devotees in ISKCON, Prabhupada's teachings are like the main course in a multi-course meal. Like you go to this high class, maybe a Michelin restaurant, and they serve you a 10-course dinner, right? But the main course is the main course, right? Whatever the main course in Durban, maybe the whatever. Anyway, I promise myself I won't make fun of my Durban roots, but whatever the main course is. And around the main course you have your salt, your pepper, your limes, you have your chutneys, you have your papars, you have your savories, you have everything on the side. Right? All those things on the side are like the teachings of everyone else. But what is the point if you are not diving into the main course meal? What does that mean to the whole menu? You've wasted the main meal. So we must be careful as devotees of Prabhupada to really access his teachings as our front and center, our main diet. And everyone else's, including those of Prabhupada's godbrothers. I mean, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shirar Maharaj's books are amazing. They are really something. Really, really something. Pramod Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, is such a high-level expert on deity worship, the likes of which we have never experienced since. Really, really, such elevated devotees. Like that we could go on. There were difficulties at that time, shortly after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left. But, what's his name? Oh gosh, I forgot his name. Vasudev Prabhu. What's his name? I forget his name. He became Puri Goswami. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, whatever I know, he knows. Ananta Vasudev. Whatever I know, he knows. In other words, he knows as much philosophy as me. Can you imagine anyone knowing as much philosophy as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta? So much of amazing skill and learning. So much was there. So there's so much to appreciate in them. But our first main course is Prabhupada's teaching. So let us focus on that. And then everything else will fall into place. Whether we do, whether we're not. And if we do hear from outside, we can easily filter all their teachings through what Prabhupada has taught us. In closing on that question, I could say this. How careful Prabhupada was with us to hear from outside without carefully understanding his teachings. As early as 1967, when Prabhupada had a major health setback, where was he? Was he in San Francisco at the time? And he realized that he could not recover in America. He had to go back to India to recuperate. So as he was preparing to leave, of course, his disciples, who were so attached to Prabhupada, this is another interesting phenomenon, right? The amazing attachment his disciples had for him. It's like when I read about the attachment, I don't see it. I can't like conceive of it in my mind, how amazingly strong that attachment was. So they were so worried that what's going to happen to us now that Swamiji is going. So one of the devotees, he approached Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, now that you are leaving, what's going to happen to us? Who's going to take care of us? Do you think it's a good idea? Maybe you can send one of your godbrothers over and he can take care of us? Prabhupada turned to him after a little pause and with a choked voice, Prabhupada said, my spiritual master was no ordinary person. He saved me. And Prabhupada composed himself and after a few moments said something quite interesting. Yes, I can do that. But If they speak one word different from me, there will be chaos. So that was a fledgling society. Now our devotees are so much more evolved in understanding of scripture. And these are great devotees, and we are taught in the Nectar of Devotion and in our teachings to always associate with advanced devotees, serve them, respect them. But it must be done with this understanding of Prabhupada's unique position and his teachings. So yes, if we can carefully assimilate, understand, faithfully understand Prabhupada's teachings, if one is strong in that, very strong, and if one is guided, like you have spiritual teachers, you have selected them based on their inspiration for you, of your inspiration from them, then be guided by them. If they say, yes, Charuchandi Dasi, this will be good. Go and hear from this person as well. If they say no, you have to follow your spiritual authorities. This is the ultimate sense. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Prabhupada lilamrta ki, Shri Akadashi Vrat ki, Gaur Premanande.